Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Intuitive Marriage Podcast. How are you doing this week? If you are new here, hello. I'm your host, Amanda Pott. I'm an intuitive marriage mentor, and I help guide wives and married couples to be more self-aware, use their intuition to create a deeper, more soulful connection with their partners. So welcome. We discuss marriage, intuition, the main foundations required to have a harmonious intuitive marriage. So get ready for some enlightening, heartwarming, and possibly some cheeky insights into making your marriage not just survive, but thrive. This week, I really wanted to dive into a topic that's as essential as coffee on a Monday morning: empathy. Empathy in your marriage. We'll explore what empathy looks like, how to achieve a higher sense of empathy in your daily life, and the transformative benefits it can bring to your relationship. Now, if you're a listener of my channel, you probably are an empath as it is because you're in intuition, or you at least have an interest in it. Now, empathy, I'm just going to give you a little rundown of a description. The definition in the Merriam-Webster dictionary is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings and thoughts and experience of another. So you're literally absorbing their emotions and how they're feeling in that instant at that time. You might be wondering, okay, Amanda, like what exactly does empathy look like in a marriage? Well, I'm here to guide you. Empathy is about tuning into your husband's feelings and responding with compassion and understanding. It's like when you're having a rough day and your partner comes home, takes one look at you, and instead of asking, hey, like, what's for dinner? They say, hey, I can see you've had a tough day. How can I help? Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you want to talk? Can I listen? That's empathy in action. But let's be real here. Developing empathy isn't as easy as snapping, your fingers and suddenly becoming the Dalai Lama of relationships. It takes effort, practice, and sometimes, a silly sense of humor, because if you can't laugh together, what's the point? Right? It's all about the laughter and the joy and having fun in your life. Empathy means being present and fully engaged with your partner. It involves acknowledging their emotions, validating their feelings, and offering support without immediately jumping into problem solving mode. For instance, when your husband shares their frustrations about work, instead of saying, hey, like, well, just quit your job, like, you're always complaining about it, try responding with, it sounds really tough, hon. I'm here for you. If you want to share more, I'm here to listen. Sometimes that's all we need to do. Tips for cultivating empathy. One is active listening. This is sometimes tough in this busy life. Distractions, phone, the dings, the messages coming in, ADHD brain. But this means really paying attention when your husband speaks without planning a response. You do it, just waiting for him to pause so you can leap back into the conversation with an answer. Or, you've got this problem solved. I'm guilty, very guilty. We want to help. If you are an empath, you are a people pleaser. Most likely a people pleaser. And I'm very guilty of that. This takes conscious, intentional practice. I'm going to say that again because it felt like it came out wrong. This takes conscious, intentional practice. So you really have to be aware of what you're doing and be intentional about your actions when you're doing them. And it takes time to get used to doing this. Or another thing, when you're having a conversation, active listening. Don't pick up your phone and pretend you're listening, but secretly scrolling till a silly, stupid, reel pops up. You're kind of looking at your husband, you're listening, you're like, but it's habit. It's literally habit, and it is the rudest thing. I see so many people doing it, and I am absolutely guilty of it. And the behavior we see in others is usually a reflection of the behavior we don't like in ourselves. Just a mental note there. Put your damn phone down. Pay attention. You know, really, really listen. We're all guilty of this. It's become a habit. It's a horrible habit. We just seem to always have these damn things in our hand. And we're so easily just, if there's a pause in the conversation or we're not engaged or we're just not actively listening, then we zone out and we grab our phone. So that's a key to show you that you're not actively listening. Because if you were, then you'd be focusing on their words. Focus on your husband's body language, his tone. Be curious about the conversation. You can learn so much about your husband just by paying attention to them. Show that you're really listening by nodding, making eye contact, and providing verbal affirmations. For example, like I see, I understand. Yeah, I hear you. That's active listening. Okay, number 2, perspective taking. I discussed perspective on the last week's episode. It's really great. Go check it out. Please go check it out. It's episode 12. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to see things from your spouse's perspective. Even if it means imaging what it's like to navigate the world with their quirks and their habits. Let's face it, we all have quirks. For example, my husband leaves his socks everywhere. Because and lately it's been worse because he burnt his foot. So he's only got one sock and he'll try to have one on and then he'll take it off and then leave it. And but instead of, getting annoyed, which it really truly does not annoy me, but I know that there's some wives out there that are very particular and they like things done and clean up and you feel like you're always cleaning up. Instead of getting annoyed, you know, just think, have some empathy. I remember maybe I have some of my own crap or mess somewhere else that I haven't cleaned up. Maybe I've got makeup on the counter. Maybe I've got, stuff in his way. And he's just as tired as I am and maybe doesn't feel like it. So, give him some slack. Cut your husband some grace. Cut your spouse some, you know, we're all tired. We're all working. And plus, I'm not his parent. This goes back to expectations in your marriage, right? But what are your expectations? How are you just going to be a slob? Are you leaving your stuff everywhere? Like what's happening? But, maybe he was going to cut the lawn. And instead, maybe I come home to him taking a nap and the grass isn't cut. Maybe a few years ago, I would have been like, well, like, what the hell? He's not pulling his weight. Really? Do I pull my weight all the time? No, definitely not. Maybe he didn't sleep well. Think of it from his perspective. Maybe he had a shitty day at work. Give your man some slack, ladies. And if you're a man listening, give your ladies some slack. Give yourself some slack. Maybe he just needs to game and just needs to zone out for a while. We all are there. We're all exhausted. Our brains are full. So please think about that before you jump into complaining mode. Number 3, practicing self-compassion. It all comes back to yourself. It really does. Building empathy, involves being kind to yourself. Practice self-compassion and give yourself the grace to make mistakes and learn from them. So maybe you did jump down your husband's throat because of some silly thing. Maybe he didn't pick up his socks. Well, and maybe you feel shitty about it now because you're like, well, I have a massive headache or whatever. And then you kind of feel bad. That's kind of a starting to feel like that's like a sympathy feeling, but it's more of, you know, we all make mistakes. We aren't perfect. And you are not perfect. You wouldn't want to be perfect. It's a beautiful thing to be perfectly imperfect. You just have to find your imperfect partner who's perfectly imperfect for you. Oh boy, it's been a day already, let me tell you. So, you know what? At the end of the day, life did not come with an instruction manual. So, give yourself some grace. When you are kinder to yourself, it's easier to extend that kindness to others, including your husband. Remind yourself that it's okay to have off days and that personal growth is a continuous journey. We're never really going to get to a destination. Just spoiler alert. It's a continuous journey. I've been on this journey, well, just over 53 years now, but more, intense, I guess, more intensely with personal development and whatnot, and the intuition and the empathy and all that over the last 20 some odd years, and primarily over the last 3, 4 years intensively. So more intensively, I guess. Intensively? Extensively? What was I trying to say? It is intense. I think I meant to say extensively. Yeah. Bear with me. If you are still with me this far, I appreciate you. My brain goes all over the place and I am reading. I do keep notes. I make a script every week because if I don't, it would be a freaking hot mess. A hot mess. See, here's me trying to give myself, you know, shit. But at the end of the day, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And if you don't want to listen, there's always the stop button, right? Oh, and here's the God honest truth, right? When you're kinder to yourself, it is easier. It's really much easier to just be nicer. Just be a nicer person. Remind yourself that this is okay. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to beat yourself up sometimes, but then learn from it. And it is. It's just an ongoing journey. Woohoo! I love this. I love this stuff, you guys. I could talk about this stuff all day long. However, as usual, I am working the final hour in recording this podcast for you this week because I go to work like very soon and I'm gone for 48 hours. So I think my daughter's going to come and maybe do some editing and whatnot for this podcast. So I appreciate her so much. So when I say we, the podcast is kind of our little team. Um, and she helps me out so much. So hopefully this gets out to you this week. But I could just talk about this all day. And I wish I had all day to talk about it. You guys are probably like, no, this is good. Anyways, okay, so I'm totally off track here. Empathy. Let's get back on track. So I'm going to share some exercises you can do to boost your empathy. But first, if you are an empath, then you already understand and probably practice these that I'm going to share, or that I have shared, or it just happens naturally for you. You know, empathy can actually sometimes feel like a curse. You are open to absorb energies and emotions and all the negativity that comes along with all of those emotions, along with the positive, of course. And I've been experiencing this all my life, but didn't really know, probably half of my life what was really happening. And so I find it very exhausting to be around a lot of people because I absorb a lot of energies. I have continuously do, and I have worked on how to protect myself from those energies. But when I'm around another empath, there's a few of us at work. One of us is having an emotional moment, and we are not emotionally connected necessarily to the story they're telling, but just their emotions themselves. You can literally feel their emotion and exactly what they're feeling and going through. And so there could be like, two or three of us like bawling all of a sudden because someone's feeling a strong emotion, and then we instantly feel that. So sometimes that can be a lot. And I have, you know, instilled some coping mechanisms for myself when I get overwhelmed with a lot of people or a lot of energies. And so next week, actually, I want to go over that. I'm going to go over how to protect yourself as an empath and share a favorite author of mine and just how her teachings have helped me. Oh, see, there's the distractions. You guys probably heard that. All these bings and bongs coming up. I should have shut that down. But that's life. That is the modern day life of just shit happening. I had to close the window because I don't know, some low flying airplane is flying out the back fields here. Or it was, and then there was a quad earlier. So I'm like, oh, good heavens. Gotta close the window. Live out in the country. We're hearing all those country sounds. Anyways, so yes, I'm excited for next week too. I wish, I don't have her on. I mean, that would be freaking amazing. Maybe one day, who knows, but I will cover 3 of her books that I've read, and they have helped me to protect myself with my own empathy. Okay, so back to exercises to boost empathy. 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 Number 1, journal. You can even just have a specific empathy journal if that works for you. Each day, write down a moment when you felt understood by your partner and a moment when you felt like you understood them. Reflect on what made these moments special and how they contributed to your emotional connection. Now, I have been journaling for many years. But over this past year, I have tried different ways of journaling. I've tried different prompts for journaling. I've done some like affirmation journaling, and I do affirmations daily in a different journal. But the one I follow and I absolutely love, and I talk about it, I think, in a couple of episodes, and I'd love to cover it more. I do go over the first 6 weeks on my YouTube channel. I do have to finish that up, but I follow Julia Cameron's morning pages, which she teaches in the artist's way, and which is just an incredible, amazing book. Really helps to get to know yourself and your creativity. If you're feeling stuck, if you're a creative person, or if you want to be creative and you don't think you're creative, just letting you know everybody's creative. Just gotta find it in there. And I'm actually on her second book now too, and it's all about the intuitive way of being creative, and I love that. So, anyways, um, so journal, write it down. Number 2, daily check ins. We talk about this again as well. Set aside a few minutes each day just to check in with each other. Check in with your husband, check in with your spouse, your partner, whatever you want to call them. Um, Ask about their day, their feelings, and any challenges they're facing. You know, um, and really listen. That's when you can really get into that active listening. Ask them questions. Be curious about their day. How can you support them this week? This regular practice can enhance your emotional connection and ensure that you're both on the same page. My husband and I, every chance we get, especially when I'm coming home from a 24-hour shift or a 48-hour shift, we'll sit on the couch for, gosh, sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's like 2 hours. We'll smoke a joint and we'll just sit and chat, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, whatever. We just connect because we don't do a lot of texting or a lot of phone calling when I'm gone. It's just the nature of my work. I'm usually pretty busy and I don't like to be distracted away from my work, being on a personal call. And he's at work. during the day, and then he's with our dog and he's chilling. He's doing his own thing. He usually gets a lot of stuff done around the yard and things that need to be done when I'm not here. Which is really funny because we tend to do that as well. When we're together, we're spending time together and we never get any shit done. Let me know if you can relate to that as a couple. But when we are we either have to work together and make a plan to do stuff together, and help each other out, like body doubling each other, or like we get our stuff done when the other one is away from the home doing their own thing. Because we just enjoy spending time together. So we don't want to be doing work when we're home together. Anyways, again, I go off down a rabbit trail. But it's kind of in the same subject, right? Like just always check in with each other and see how you can help each other out. And it just brings you closer. Make sure you're just on the same page with each other. So number 3, this is kind of fun. I try to do this off and on. I don't really need to anymore because we understand each other, but it's still good as a reminder. Walk in their shoes. It's, just kind of like a little fun exercise, and I do like a walk in their shoes, like air quote. I don't even know why I'm doing air quotes because no one can see me, but anyways, I do this anyways. Spend a day or a few hours experiencing life from your partner's perspective. Swap chores or responsibilities to gain a better understanding of their day, like of their daily experiences and challenges. And this exercise can foster mutual appreciation and empathy. So just imagine living with yourself and having to see yourself, and what you do and how you talk to them from your husband's perspective. Like, oh boy, that's an eye opener some days. Yikes. Like he has to live with me. Like he has to live with that. Like I put up with that, but he has to put up with this. So let me tell you, it definitely gives you an appreciation that, your husband puts up with you. But it's fun. Just kind of have a different outlook on each other's lives and what you are going through, right? From their lens, I guess, if you can. So, why should you bother with all of this empathy business? How does empathy really benefit you in marriage? I mean, to me, it just is absolutely makes common sense, but to others, maybe not. You know, maybe they don't understand. Maybe you're learning. Maybe we're just trying to figure it out. But it can truly transform your marriage. And when you and your spouse feel understood and valued, it deepens your connection and it strengthens your bond. Plus, it can make resolving conflicts like so much easier because if you can kind of have, an understanding of that other person where they're looking at it from and how they're feeling about it, it really does make resolving conflicts so much easier and peaceful. So instead of a shouting match, I mean, not that we're not really shouters. We really don't argue very much, but I mean, I have in the past and so has he. We've had our moments and in past relationships. But this way you have a conversation where both sides are feeling heard. And trust me, it's an absolute game changer. Absolute game changer. Empathy fosters trust, intimacy, and emotional safety in your relationship. It helps you navigate challenges together with a shared sense of compassion and understanding. And when conflicts arise, empathy allows you to approach them with a perspective of collaboration rather than competition. Well, to wrap things up this week, everyone, remember that empathy is like a muscle. Okay, so the more you use it, the stronger it gets, just like your intuition. So start with active listening, different perspective on things, and some self compassion. Flex those empathy muscles and, just try out those 3 exercises we went over. Journal, daily check ins with your spouse, and do a walk in your shoes exercise. watch your marriage flourish. It truly will change things on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode, episode 12. Please share it if this is resonating with you. You know, this little project of mine, this Intuitive Marriage podcast, I have to tell you a little fun fact. I wasn't sure what to call my podcast for the longest time, and I happened to be warming up a cup of coffee in the microwave, and it was Valentine's Day this year, February 14th. And of course, my podcast is inspired by, my marriage, my current marriage, my intuition, just the love I have for life and what I've experienced and go through myself and how we work on our marriage daily and the love I have for my husband. And so as I was warming up my cup of coffee, I looked at the clock. It was 11:11, and I see 11:11 all the time, always have, just all the time. Angel numbers everywhere in my life. And all of a sudden, it just, voice in my head just said, the Intuitive Marriage podcast, the Intuitive Marriage. What are you doing? You have an intuitive marriage. So anyways, there again, I digress. But I thank you so much for showing up and listening. I have getting close to almost 300 listeners now, which I know is very, very small in the podcast world, but I'm absolutely thrilled that you guys just keep showing up, or new people are popping in. So hello and thank you. So please review the show. Write me a little review. Please, 5 stars if it's good. If it's good, it'll help me. And share, as it will help me to grow my little show. So until next time, keep those vibes high and